Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Miocha and you are watching AnewZ. Here are the headlines. Benjamin Netanyahu vows to bring back all the hostages still held in Gaza. Germany offers rare criticism of Israel. Dozens injured after a car plows through a crowd in Liverpool. Suspect arrested. International conference on tackling Islamophobia concludes in Baku. Thank you for tuning in. Germany's foreign minister threatened unspecified measures against Israel, calling the situation in Gaza unbearable. The same day, Chancellor Friedrich Merz said he views the events of the past few days in the Gaza Strip, quote, very, very critically. Speaking at a joint press conference with the Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo, Merz said he cannot see any logic in the massive military strikes by the Israeli army in the Gaza Strip as to how they serve the goal of fighting terror and freeing the hostages. He said Israel's actions no longer seemed to him vital for the defense of Israel's right to exist. Orpo called the Israeli actions not at all acceptable, calling for more humanitarian aid to be delivered to Gaza residents. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to bring back all the hostages still held in Gaza. At a ceremony in Jerusalem, he said Israel will not let go of its mission.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed a key national pledge to return all hostages held in Gaza by Hamas. He made the announcement during a state ceremony on Monday at Ammunition Hill in Jerusalem, marking 58 years since the 1967 war.
We will defeat those who seek our lives. We will bring back all our hostages. We will ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. This mission, including the mission of returning our hostages, accompanies us day by day. It occupies us night by night, including tonight. We are not letting go of it. If we don't achieve it today, we will achieve it tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, then the day after tomorrow. We are not letting go of it.
Netanyahu's remarks come after a Palestinian source said that mediators proposed a 70-day ceasefire and the release of 10 Israeli hostages alongside some Palestinian prisoners. However, U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff later said Hamas had not agreed to the deal. Earlier, Hamas said it's willing to release all remaining hostages and agrees to a permanent ceasefire if Israel fully withdrew from Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu has rejected that condition, insisting that any ceasefire must be temporary and linked only to the release of hostages. Tensions in Gaza remain high as Israel reports targeting a Hamas and Islamic Jihad command center, while it says it's attempting to minimize harm to civilians. Meanwhile, aid organizations warn that the humanitarian situation is deteriorating, with critical shortages of food and medicine caused by the ongoing blockade.
A controversial new aid distribution group backed by the US and Israel has begun working in Gaza. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said trucks with food have been delivered and that the distribution has begun. The United Nations and many aid groups have refused to cooperate with the GHF.
Backed by the United States and coordinated with Israel, the foundation introduces a new model for delivering food, water and hygiene kits through secure aid hubs.
So the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has literally been started from scratch in a matter of days. The idea came from Israel. It has been taken over by the United States. It appears that it will be run by the private sector, including private military contractors. The current scheme that is proposed, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, appears to be an attempt for Israel to be able to supply just enough humanitarian aid to keep individuals alive who are not in any way associated with Hamas, and to prevent Hamas from getting any access to any relief food at all.
The foundation says it will ensure aid delivery to those most in need while minimizing risks. Israeli officials say the model is designed to prevent interference and ensure controlled distribution.
We decided to provide minimal aid during the war, with secure distribution points under IDF protection. This allows civilian populations to access food and medicine while preventing misuse.
The United States supports the effort and is working with partners to enable aid to flow safely.
We're going to help the people of Gaza get some food. People are starving, and we're going to help them get some food. A lot of people are making it very, very bad. If you look, Hamas is making it impossible because they're taking everything that's brought in. But we're going to help the people of Gaza because they're being treated very badly by Hamas.
However, aid organizations have raised questions about the plan's reach and practicality, particularly in a region where movement is limited and needs are high.
Every single child in Gaza today is at risk of famine. Families are being forced to feed their children everything from animal feed, flour ground up in sand, leaves, grass, whatever they can find just to keep their children alive.
Concerns also focus on whether the new model will be accessible to the most vulnerable, such as the elderly, disabled and orphaned children, especially if distribution sites are limited in number or difficult to reach.
If there is a reduction in the number of sites where people can access assistance, that would effectively reduce or exclude the most vulnerable people in Gaza from accessing aid. That's not feasible, that's not practical.
The United Nations has said it won't participate in the Foundation's operations, citing concerns about the structure of the plan. But the Foundation has clarified that it will not share personal recipient data with any authority and is considering technology to ensure aid reaches the intended beneficiaries.
Israel has very good intelligence about all the individuals in Gaza, and it will screen them. And it will use sophisticated face recognition technology to make sure only those individuals it has screened and targeted are able to access the food. And the rations that it is intending to provide will be just enough to provide one family for 1 week on a minimum ration. And that should, if it works, be enough to ensure that no food goes to Hamas operatives.
Allegations of aid diversion remain a point of debate. While some officials cite concerns, others note that investigations have not found large-scale diversion. For now, the Foundation says it plans to gradually expand distribution with Israeli coordination and US logistical support. Meanwhile, limited aid under the previous UN-led model has resumed as discussions continue over the best way forward.
US President Donald Trump once again called out Russian President Vladimir Putin on his social media, this time saying that Putin is playing with fire. Trump is reportedly considering new sanctions on Russia over the war in Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reports that more banking sanctions are not expected, but that other ways to pressure Putin are being considered.
But he's sending rockets into cities.
US President Donald Trump says he's rethinking new sanctions on Russia as Moscow continues its attacks on Ukraine. While additional banking sanctions are reportedly off the table, other measures aimed at pressuring Russian President Vladimir Putin to make concessions are being explored. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump might also decide not to impose new sanctions. The US president believes that additional sanctions on Russia would not curb its ability to wage war, but would hamper efforts to revive US-Russian economic ties. The White House says that President Trump remains committed to pursuing a negotiated peace deal, but is prepared to keep all options open. Trump's policy toward Russia has shifted between threats of sanctions and talks about increasing trade. He believed his personal connection with Putin could help bring about peace. However, Putin's recent refusal to agree to a 30-day ceasefire has made Trump rethink this. After a recent phone call, Trump said he doubts Putin really wants peace and called Putin's recent large attack on Ukraine absolutely crazy. Kyiv reported on Monday that Moscow had launched its biggest drone and missile attack yet, with more than 350 explosive drones and several cruise missiles overnight. Ukrainian forces say they fought back hard while civilians endured another sleepless night. Meanwhile, pressure is growing in the US Senate, where lawmakers introduced a bipartisan plan to impose new sanctions on Russia. The plan includes tariffs on countries that buy Russian oil, gas, and uranium. It aims to tighten economic pressure on Moscow. Western allies have also recently allowed more weapons to be sent to Ukraine. This means that Ukraine has the potential to strike deeper into Russian territory. The White House has not commented on this. According to reports, Trump blames Zelensky for making the conflict worse by pushing for more sanctions. Trump also worries that more sanctions could hurt the chances of restoring trade between the US and Russia after the war. During his first term, the US leader supplied weapons to Ukraine, despite Russia's ongoing support for separatist attacks. On the campaign trail, Trump claimed he would have prevented Russia's invasion altogether and promised a swift resolution to the conflict. Now, as the war continues, Trump seems unsure whether to keep trying for peace or give up if there is no progress soon.
A 53-year-old suspected of attempted murder was arrested after a car was driven into a crowd in Liverpool on Monday. Local police says that there was a total of 65 casualties and that 11 people remain in hospital. The incident took place as thousands of people had been on the city's streets for Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade.
It was supposed to be a day of celebration, but as fans rejoiced, a tragic incident occurred during Liverpool Football Club's Premier League title victory parade, when a car ploughed into a crowd of fans, injuring 65 people, including children. 4 people, including a child, were rescued from underneath the vehicle. Eyewitnesses described the car accelerating deliberately into the crowd, causing chaos and panic. Locals say the crash has shaken the community during what should have been a day of celebration.
I'm just horrified that something like that could happen. You know, they're all coming out just to express their excitement of winning the cup, winning the league, and then this happens. It devastates me.
British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer condemned the incident and said the country stands with the city of Liverpool.
Well, scenes of joy turned to utter horror and devastation, and my thoughts and the thoughts of the whole country are with all of those that are affected, those injured, which of course includes children, their families, their friends, the whole community, Liverpool fans everywhere. And Liverpool stands together, and the whole country stands with Liverpool.
Whilst further details haven't been released, the police say they're not treating the incident as terrorism.
We believe this to be an isolated incident, and we are not currently looking for anyone else in relation to it. The incident is not being treated as terrorism.
Liverpool Football Club, along with political leaders and football figures, expressed solidarity with those affected and praised the city's resilience. In what was meant to be a day of celebration, a city now remains in shock.
The European Union has approved the creation of a 150 billion euros arms fund amid growing fears of a possible Russian attack and doubts over Washington's security commitments to the continent. The measure was backed by 26 of the EU's 27 member countries, with Hungary abstaining.
The European Commission has given the green light for a monetary loan scheme to member states for collaborative defence projects. The Security Action for Europe scheme, known as SAFE, was first proposed in March, as concerns deepened that the US, under President Donald Trump, might not come to Europe's defence if needed. This scheme is designed to strengthen the EU defence industry, with an emphasis on cross-border projects and buying European supplies and arms. The measure was backed by 26 of the EU's 27 countries, with Hungary abstaining. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, EU countries have already increased defence spending by more than 30%. But leaders say it's still not enough. Moscow has criticised the initiative as fueling war, based on what it calls an invented threat. But many in Europe note that Russia made similar claims before launching its assault on Ukraine. The safe fund signals a new era in European defence, one that is united, armed and prepared for a future without guarantees.
Greenland's Minister for Business and Mineral Resources, Nathanielsen, says that the US and European mining companies need to hurry to invest in Greenland. Otherwise, the large Arctic territory will be forced to turn to alternative partners, including China. Greenland has valuable but hard-to-reach minerals, which became one of the most sought-after commodities. Earlier, US President Donald Trump's idea of taking over Greenland had upset many. Nathanielsen called Trump's words disrespectful. However, China's interest in Greenland's mining is still low. Only 2 Chinese companies have active projects in the region. Khartoum International Airport, once a symbol of Sudan's turmoil, is now on the path of recovery. After being seized by rebel forces in April 2023, the airport remained under their control until the Sudanese armed forces reclaimed it in March this year. Our Anastasia Lavrina has more.
Hello, today AnewZ is here at Khartoum International Airport in the Republic of Sudan. Previously, operational airport was shut down in April 2023 when the war started between the rebels and the official government forces. So this is the exact place from where the war started in April 2023 when the airport was attacked by missiles and the rebels. Within the next couple of years, the airport was controlled by the rebels, but it wasn't used. You can see around a lot of destroyed planes. You can imagine how people were planning to travel somewhere that day, but their plans were destroyed. According to the official statement of the government of Sudan, the Khartoum city now is completely liberated of the rebels and already started the reconstruction work here at the airport. It seems that within the next 1 or 2 months, this international airport will become functional again to make sure the former IDPs who are coming back to this city have a proper connection to the world. Anastasia Lavrina, especially for AnewZ from Khartoum International Airport, Republic of Sudan.
Leaders from the Gulf and Southeast Asia are eyeing deeper economic ties, with trade expected to surge to $180 billion by 2032. That's according to Kuwait's Crown Prince, who made the announcement at the ASEAN GCC summit in Malaysia.
Trade between the Gulf Cooperation Council and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, is projected to reach $180 billion by 2032, according to Kuwait's Crown Prince, Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Sabah. He made the remarks during the second ASEAN GCC summit on Tuesday in Malaysia. Sheikh Sabah says that the GCC was ASEAN's 7th largest trading partner in 2023, with trade volume reaching more than $130 billion. He says he's optimistic about continued growth, citing strong investment opportunities and a shared commitment to economic cooperation.
We expect to see an average 30% growth in trade to reach $180 billion by 2032. The amount of opportunities that can be invested on both sides is huge, and what has been achieved so far confirms that we are on the right track.
Beyond trade, he emphasised the importance of enhancing cooperation in strategic areas such as food security and the digital economy. This year's ASEAN chair, Malaysia, is hosting the summit, which will conclude with talks between Southeast Asian leaders and Chinese Premier Li Qiang.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is in Oman for a 2-day visit looking to boost political and trade relations. Muscat is already close to Tehran, mediating its nuclear negotiations with Washington. Turashir Alilu brings more from Tehran.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has arrived in Muscat, Oman, on a 2-day visit to boost the political and trade relations with a friendly country which is mediating between Tehran and Washington in their discussions on Iran's nuclear program and the US sanctions. Heading a political and economic delegation, President Pezeshkian will meet Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, and 14 major bilateral cooperation agreements and MOUs are scheduled to be signed during the visit, said Iran's ambassador in Muscat, Moussa Farhang. Frequent exchange of visits by heads of state of Iran and Oman are regular. The Sultan of Oman visited Tehran back in May 2023, following the visit to Muscat by former Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi in May 22. According to the Iranian envoy, bilateral trade between the two countries increased from $200 million in 2015 and hit $2.5 billion in 2025, thanks to the Iranian diaspora and their companies in Oman. Prior to President Pezeshkian's visit to Muscat, Iranian and US negotiators met last Friday in Rome and held their fifth round of discussions mediated by the Omani Foreign Ministry. Unconfirmed media reports suggested that Oman has provided Iran with a proposal on a 6-month freeze of its nuclear enrichment after Tehran rejected the US demand of zero enrichment as its red line. Iran says such a proposal was not on the agenda of the talks. On the verge of his departure to Oman, President Pezeshkian said in a conference in Tehran on Monday that Iran could survive without a nuclear deal with the United States. While Iran and its neighboring Persian Gulf Arab states are currently experiencing a thaw in their fluctuating ties, Tehran and Muscat have enjoyed traditionally stable political and strong trade relations. These friendly ties date back to the early 1970s, when the pro-West Shah of Iran militarily helped Oman during a civil war waged by the communist rebels. Moreover, Oman has adopted an independent approach in its ties with Tehran compared to other regional Arab countries, which generally adjust with Saudi Arabia their Iran relations. Turaj Shiralilu, reporting for AnewZ TV, Tehran.
The International Conference on Tackling Islamophobia has wrapped up here in Baku. The main focus of Day 2 was the message that it's time to move from talk to action. Our Aytan Shukurova has more.
Time is up for listening and talking. It's time for action. This is the recurring message echoing throughout the second day of International Conference for Islamophobia, held under the theme Islamophobia in Focus, unveiling bias, shattering stigmas. This pivotal gathering brings together over 130 delegates from 31 countries, including scholars, religious leaders, and representatives of international organizations, all united in the fight against Islamophobia. Today's sessions delve into critical issues: the institutionalization of anti-Muslim legislation in Europe, the propagation of Islamophobic sentiments amid radicalization, safeguarding Islamic cultural heritage, and empowering youth voices to challenge prejudice and misconceptions. As the conference progresses, participants are drafting a final communique outlining actionable steps and commitments to foster a more inclusive and tolerant global society.
With a world population of around 8 billion, 2 billion are Muslims. That means 1 in every 4 people is a Muslim. Speaking up for the rights of Muslims, defending those rights and addressing their violations is not just a moral duty, it's a sacred responsibility before both God and the global community. It's encouraging to see not only Muslims, but also representatives of Catholicism, Orthodoxy, and other faiths and traditions participating. This shows a growing recognition that Islamophobia is not just a Muslim problem, it's a global issue. We've seen the tragic consequences in places like Karabakh, where mosques were desecrated. So, who will raise their voice for the rights of Muslims? It's now up to Muslim scholars and experts at this conference to provide thoughtful, practical solutions to combat Islamophobia.
The non-Muslims lived with us and for centuries, unharmed, untouched, and they've been left with their churches and their synagogues, and so they've been practicing their religion very comfortably throughout the centuries. So we need the same thing happen to our people who are living in the West. So I think this message is clear, and we have to fight for it, and we have to spread this message very clearly to all over the world.
These discussions are not just academic, they are a call for action.
I will write a paper especially for this conference, for this third session. I will send it to the organizers. I will send it to academic committee. One thing that comes to my mind is that we should bridge links between universities in Morocco and here in Azerbaijan. Maybe I will try to contact some of them and try to co-publish papers about Islamophobia and about other topics. You see, when you want to tackle a problem, you should tackle the whole system, the whole thinking system. So Islamophobia is the center, but we need to talk about arts, about philosophy, about economics, about law, about geopolitics, to circle this problem. So today we need to exchange more in terms of ideas.
A call for global solidarity in the fight against Islamophobia has been made in Baku. We sent a message from Baku to the whole world about the need to counter Islamophobia, and I hope that it will be heard in various parts of the planet. Joint fight against any form of discrimination is possible and necessary.
When our religious communities work together, we are a great force for good in this world. And not only that, when we work together on humanitarian projects, we get to know each other better and we see what wonderful neighbors we can be. So I'm very happy to be here and to be part of this process with the G20 Interfaith Forum. I've certainly appreciated getting to know some of my new Muslim friends at this conference. And again, I congratulate Azerbaijan for taking the leadership in this important initiative.
The Conference for Islamophobia in Baku stands as a testament to the collective will to dismantle stereotypes, promote understanding, and build a world where diversity is celebrated, not feared.
The joint press tour of Azerbaijani and Uzbekistani media delegations continued on its second day in Bukhara. Our Aliyah Aziz has the details.
The second part of the Azerbaijan-Uzbekistan media press tour is from the historic city of Bukhara, where this press tour offered a blend of innovation and ancient heritage. Our first stop was the Bukhara Agro-Cluster Smart Lab. Here, Azerbaijan media delegates explored state-of-the-art food laboratories and even sampled locally produced organic dairy products, a highlight that truly showcased the region's modern approach to agriculture and sustainability. Then, stepping back in time, we visited the Ark Fortress, an historic structure dating back to the 5th century AD. Once home to Bukhara's emirs, it served as a seat of power for 1,000 years and remains a powerful symbol of the city's rich past. At our final destination was the Poi Kalyan complex, the spiritual heart of Bukhara. Dominating the skyline is the iconic Kalyan minaret built in 1127 and known as the Tower of Death. Alongside it are the Grand Kalyan Mosque and the revered Miri Arab Madrasa, long celebrated as a center of Islamic education. From cutting-edge labs to centuries-old landmarks, today in Bukhara has been a journey through the past and the present. This is Aliyah Aziz, reporting from Bukhara, Uzbekistan, for AnewZ.
The Non-Aligned Movement Youth Organization officially launched its research center in Baku, supported by the Azerbaijan International Development Agency. The opening ceremony brought together government officials, foreign diplomats, UN representatives, and academia.
In Baku, a new step has been taken to empower the next generation of global leaders. The Non-Aligned Movement Youth Organization has officially launched its research center, with support from the Azerbaijan International Development Agency. The centre aims to put youth at the heart of global problem solving, from peace building to climate action. The opening ceremony of the NAMI Research Centre drew a diverse audience: government officials, foreign diplomats, UN representatives, and academic experts, all gathered to support a bold vision: youth-driven solutions for global challenges.
Around the world, we are going through a very challenging time now. There are conflicts around the world, and the youth are, as our future, the ones that bear not only the responsibility but the burden of the future consequences of the conflicts that we are experiencing. Therefore, this very research center that we have inaugurated today will be an important asset for the youth from non-aligned movement member states to come together to research more about the concept of non-alignment, to see how in this very world, the modern world, the youth can contribute to peace-building processes.
Rafiev also told AnewZ that the centre would place young voices at the forefront of international efforts to address pressing issues from conflict to development. The United Nations resident coordinator in Azerbaijan, Vladanka Andreeva, also stressed the power of youth-led innovation to accelerate sustainable development. Kamila Mamadova, the centre's manager, introduced its main focus areas: climate action, environmental protection and water management.
Then we create an opportunity to come and together think about the solutions on the contemporary challenges, because we all know that we have the Sustainable Development Goals agenda, and we need to come up with solutions that will be effective to overcome the challenges that we all struggle with.
Azerbaijan has been leading youth engagement efforts since hosting the 2022 NAM Youth Summit and founding the NAMIO. This new centre is the latest step in that journey, providing a platform where young minds can research, connect and act.
At the opening of the NAMIO Research Center, Azerbaijani Deputy Foreign Minister Yalchin Rafiev spoke on the preparations for the UN Climate Conference COP30 in Belém and the cooperation of the host Brazil with the current COP29 President Azerbaijan.
We are currently actively continuing our presidency duties at COP29. COP30 will be held in November in the city of Belém, Brazil. One of the biggest expectations there is the preparation of a $1.3 trillion roadmap from Baku to Belém. The main purpose of this roadmap is to ensure the implementation of the climate finance decisions adopted in Baku, and to define concrete directions for increasing the initial $300 billion commitment to $1.3 trillion over the next 10 years. Other decisions will also be discussed in Belém, and Azerbaijan, as the current president, is actively working on their preparation. In June, a session of the subsidiary bodies will be held in Bonn. A similar session was already held last year. At that session, Azerbaijan, together with Brazil, will take part in the presentation of initial drafts of specific international decisions to be adopted, and work will be carried out on these drafts.
The leaders of Azerbaijan, Turkey and Pakistan will come together for the official opening ceremony of the Lachin International Airport, the third airport built in the liberated Azerbaijani territories. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif arrived to Lachin, where he was welcomed by Azerbaijan's Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov and other officials. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is set to arrive tomorrow. The commissioning of the airport marks one of Azerbaijan's steps towards improving infrastructure and strengthening regional connectivity in the South Caucasus. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev met with Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif in Lachin for talks on regional peace, reconstruction efforts and strengthening bilateral ties. Sharif reaffirmed Pakistan's unwavering support for Azerbaijan, praising the rapid reconstruction and development in Lachin, calling the region a future hub for tourism. The meeting also covered expanded cooperation in trade, education, science and technology, and comes ahead of tomorrow's trilateral summit with Turkey. On tomorrow's events in Lachin, we're talking with Nargis Mamadova of the STEM Analytical Center in Baku. Welcome, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what is the significance of another airport being built in Azerbaijan's liberated territories, and what kind of a message do the leaders of Turkey and Pakistan send by joining Azerbaijani president and being there for the official opening?
It's a very essential topic for not only for Azerbaijan but also for a region. There are so many signals that this trilateral meeting and trilateral cooperation, which is going to be the outcomes of it, we're going to see tomorrow with the arrival of the President of Turkey, Erdogan. And the first thing that we need to observe and we need to notice and clarify here that the Laçın airport is a very essential airport for Azerbaijan, for the logistical and transportation system of not only for Karabakh but for all the region of the South Caucasus, and it's just the beginning of the new pages of mutual cooperation, trilateral cooperation between Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Pakistan. As well as, it's very interesting that if we're talking about the signals to the other world countries, it's first of all saying that the both countries see Karabakh as a potential area of cooperation, and I think that the level and the number of the mutual projects will be more and more, and the opening of the Laçın corridor, as well as the giving international, we will call and now call the Laçın International Airport as an international airport. So it means that it will bring more ideas, people, economical integration, transport integration, energy projects in Karabakh. And the second one, which is very, very crucial for this topic and in this matter, is to think that the Turkey is a connecting point between Europe and between Europe, Caucasus, and further region. And also, while Azerbaijan is the bridge between South Caucasus and Central Asia towards China, however, Pakistan is a very strategic point. It's a very paramount strategic point in the Asia, and also towards in the navigations towards India, China, and etc. So it's meaning that we bring all the continents together by the opening of the Laçın corridor. I think this is the main message that we deliver to the world.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Turkey and Russia have expressed support for Azerbaijan's efforts to promote peace in the South Caucasus region. During a joint press conference with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said that the situation in the South Caucasus affects them directly. He noted that both Ankara and Moscow support the peace process in the region and added that they welcome Baku's significant steps towards stability and peace. Armenia said it is ready to host the next ministerial meeting of the 3+3 platform. Earlier, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said at a joint press conference with his Armenian counterpart Ararat Mirzoyan that the third 3+3 meeting is being planned and suggested holding the next meetings in Baku and Yerevan. The platform is intended to help South Caucasus countries work together and also includes Russia, Turkey, and Iran. With changes on the horizon in the South Caucasus region, recent remarks by the Russian diplomacy chief in Yerevan have opened the room for debate on Kremlin's role and approach to the region.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has drawn attention with comments made in Yerevan, where he appeared to acknowledge that Armenian forces used Russian-supplied weapons to occupy Azerbaijani territories for years.
Yet Russian weapons were used to occupy these 7 undisputed Azerbaijani districts and to build fortifications and combat lines, clearly indicating a long-term intention to hold these territories. Some analysts even noted that the nature of the fortifications suggested there was never any plan to return these areas to Azerbaijan.
The remarks, though carefully framed, mark a rare moment of public recognition by a top Russian official of Armenia's military actions in the 1990s, and the role of Russian equipment in those operations. Analysts say the comments reflect a deeper historical pattern in Russia's approach to the South Caucasus. with Armenia often playing a strategic role in Moscow's broader regional goals. Episodes such as the 19th century resettlement of Armenians into the South Caucasus, the violence and forced displacement of the early 20th century, and Russia's involvement in the First Karabakh War are frequently cited by critics as evidence of that long-standing posture. One of the most controversial chapters remains the role of the Russian 366th Motorized Infantry Regiment during the 1992 Khojaly massacre. Lavrov's acknowledgement that Russian weapons were used to occupy Azerbaijani territory has strengthened the view that Armenia may have acted at times as a tool in Russia's regional strategy. Russian media outlets like Izvestia used to refer to Karabakh as Artsakh and continue frame Armenia's security through its alliance with Moscow, diverging from international consensus. But Russia's traditional approach may be losing ground. Since 2018, Armenia's political shifts under Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan have challenged old alliances. Moscow's continued support for figures tied to previous administrations, including Robert Kocharyan and Serge Sargsyan, has been met with criticism from Armenian civil society. The Kremlin's appointment of Sergei Kiriyenko as its point man on Armenian affairs, along with renewed contact with the so-called Karabakh clan, has done little to reassure those hoping for change. Pashinyan's recent comment that there will be no new war between Armenia and Azerbaijan was seen by many as a signal to resist outside pressure and move past the cycles of conflict that have long shaped the region. Observers argue that Russia's focus on political pressure and controlled escalation no longer aligns with the region's aspirations. Calls for sovereignty, peace, and development are growing louder, while Moscow's reliance on outdated tactics may be losing its hold.
Kazakhstan is looking to learn from China's experience in nuclear and environmental safety. This was a major topic during talks about Kazakhstan's first nuclear power plant. Our Fariza Kalimurzina has the details.
Kazakhstan expressed interest in studying China's experience in ensuring nuclear and water environmental safety at all stages of the project implementation. The chairman of the Atomic Energy Agency of Kazakhstan met with the Deputy Minister of Ecology of China and head of the National Nuclear Safety Administration. The parties discussed prospects for cooperation in the nuclear energy sector, particularly the country's first nuclear power plant project, the development of the nuclear fuel cycle and the strengthening of the scientific and technical base. Currently, preparations for construction are actively underway. A short list of potential technology suppliers has been formed, which includes 4 international corporations: China's CNNC with its reactor, Russia's Rosatom, South Korea's KCNP, and France EDF. The first Kazakh nuclear power plant, with a capacity of 2.4 gigawatts, is planned to be built in Almaty region. New power transmission lines will be required to connect the plant to the power grid. The project may be financed through export credits and loans from international financial organizations. The decision on the choice of the partner company is expected before the end of the first half of the year. Initially, this was planned for the end of 2022, but the dates have been postponed several times. The final decision was delayed until after the Republican referendum held in October 2024. More than 71% of Kazakhstanis supported the construction of the nuclear power plant. According to the preliminary estimates by Li Yong, deputy chief representatives of the Chinese National Nuclear Corporation, the cost of one 1.2 gigawatt power unit may amount to about $2.73 billion. Accordingly, if the construction is entrusted to China's CNNC, the total cost of the 2-unit station will reach approximately $5.47 billion. The project is expected to take about 5 years to complete, with the nuclear power plant scheduled to be commissioned in 2035. Fariza Kalimurzina, AnewZ, in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Georgian authorities have apprehended Georgi Bachiashvili, a former aide to billionaire and ex-prime minister Bidzina Ivanishvili. Bachashvili, who fled the country earlier this year amid an embezzlement trial, was detained near the southern border with Armenia and Azerbaijan. He had been sentenced in absentia to 11 years in prison for allegedly misappropriating over $800 million in cryptocurrency from Ivanishvili's investment fund. Bachashvili denies the charges, claiming they are politically motivated on account of his support for Ukraine. Afghanistan is stepping up its diplomatic efforts, with 2 delegations being dispatched to China and Russia, trying to boost trade and security ties. Our Tamim Bahis has more.
Afghanistan is expanding its regional diplomatic outreach, seeking stronger economic and security ties across Asia. In a notable move, the country's acting foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi delivered a speech at the 20th Western China International Fair in Chengdu, signaling Kabul's intent to integrate more deeply into regional trade and investment frameworks. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the fair, Minister Muttaqi highlighted Afghanistan's strategic potential, pointing to its untapped natural resources, a youthful population, and key location at the crossroads of Central and South Asia. He said these elements position Afghanistan as a future hub for transit and regional trade. Muttaqi assured international investors that Afghanistan has a secure environment for commerce and that foreign businesses can now operate in Afghanistan with confidence. He also called China a strong economic partner, underscoring its important role in Afghanistan's agriculture, technology and infrastructure development. Meanwhile, in another diplomatic first, Russian media have reported that officials from Kabul will participate in the 13th international meeting of high representatives responsible for security issues, set to take place in Moscow. The conference, taking place from May 27th to 29th, brings together representatives from various regional and international organizations to discuss pressing security issues. With both economic and security engagements on the rise, Afghanistan's leaders are signaling a broader effort to step onto the regional stage, even as the country continues to face international scrutiny over domestic governance and human rights. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for AnewZ.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to AnewZ.